Hey guys, welcome to the Let's Talk Wealth podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Robert Montes, my co-host, Ms. Josie Allred.
Hi guys.
Josie doesn't want to talk, I guess.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to.
She's like, what do we do?
Normally when we have guests, it's like you have to do like your whole thing and then
we hop
other
into it
people
from
talk.
there. But today it's going to be Josie and I just taking some time to recap, just kind of talking about what's going on in the world, life, things what we're learning, and just having some conversation and keeping it pretty casual today. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see what we end up talking about and kind of picking up from there. One thing that's been on my mind a lot this morning, and maybe just as a spot to kick it off, is the idea of the difference between motivation versus discipline. Because today, I feel like today already, it's just been kind of a weird start, and just there's always going to be the ups and the downs that happen. And so one thing that has been going through my mind all morning is, Robert, you can't always control your motivation, but you can always control your discipline. And it's just been kind of keeping me focused on the thought that, like, I think we've talked about in the past, there's that Roger Federer speech where he's talking to a college, like doing a college commencement speech. And he talks about, as one of the greatest tennis players of all time, how if you looked at the amount of matches he won in his career, it was something like 80% of his matches he won. But if you looked at the actual points he scored during each match, he only won about 55% of them, so barely more than half. And the thing he would talk about was that when you lose almost every other point, you have to develop a mentality to understand that it's just a point. It doesn't matter. So things can go well or things can go poorly, but if you let any of that be something that you dwell on, it can really mess with you in a way that's bigger than it needs to be. And that was kind of on my mind today because I feel like, the learning curves, like obviously as you've been learning and taking over more responsibilities in the office, there's a lot to it as you're seeing, and so I think yesterday was one of those things where it's like, all right, a little bit of scramble, like trying to finish up the plan that we had. Yeah. But it's all,
last 2 days, honestly.
Yeah. And it's one of those things though, where I was not frustrated. I'm never frustrated because I know I've been at the stages that you're at right now and just understanding that there is a lot to learn, and then there's a lot that you don't realize that you don't know sometimes, Well,
it's hard too because I'm like, I hear all the stories about where you and Grayson started. I'm like, damn, like it's got to be so easy for me. And it's like, it's just still so much though. Yeah. And I feel bad, but at the same time, I'm like, there's no way I can know this. There's no way I can do this. Like the UTMA accounts, I don't know if I can say that. Yeah, but like the UTMA accounts, it was not in good order. And so I was like having to redo paperwork and resubmit it and go into Grayson's office and ask him how to do all of it. And it's like, I have AI note takers and I'm taking notes and it's still just like, okay, that project's done. Now I have to go and relearn this other project, right? 'Cause it's like, you have account openings, you have the presentations, there's honestly so much. And even with like this morning, again, I don't know if I can say this, it might be cut, but with your client this morning, it's like nobody really knows how much work goes into all of this. Cause like we present things and they look good. And it's like half the time we don't even go through the whole presentations of like all the energy and work that we put in. And it's so worth it every single time because we want to make sure each client is getting the appropriate amount of information and that they can go back and they can go look on it and we can go back and we can go look on it. But it's like, there's a lot of work here. But no, with what you're saying with the motivation versus discipline, I think the biggest thing, and this is something that you've mentioned with your business a lot, is making sure that you have enough clients, you have enough abundance that one thing isn't going to move the needle either way. It might suck because of course, like you never want to upset a client, you never want to lose a client. Our retention rate is super good. But I think that just kind of goes in life in general. It's like, we want to make sure your life is like full of abundance. And so there's never one thing that's going to completely there's never one thing that you're hinging upon your happiness for, where it's like, if something goes bad, it's like, okay, well, I've still got so many other good things going for me that it's easy for me to just pick myself back up.
Yeah. I've been rereading the book, The Gap and the Gain. I feel like because the whole book is about measuring backwards versus measuring forward, and how no matter where we're at in life, it's very easy to measure forward against our ideals and against what we want to see ourselves be. And that can be demotivating because you're not always on pace at where you think you should be. And I think for me, that has been something that thankfully I'm pretty good about not worrying about, because having been in this industry for as long as I have, and every project I have ever done, seeing how it takes 3, 4, 5 times longer than I think when I first started, it's extremely discouraging at first. Like I can remember earlier in my career just being like, maybe I just suck at life. Maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe it's never going to work. Maybe everyone's better than me. And as we've been going on this project and really leaning into the podcast, I've been looking and seeing what other people out there are doing. And sometimes you see people who are further along in this specific journey than where we are. And it's easy to measure against those ideals, to be thinking, oh man, that guy's doing it so much better than us. And but it goes back and to what I'm really glad with Lincoln. I feel like I end up talking about him a lot because I feel like Lincoln helps me so much practice what I preach. Because I tell Lincoln every day, nobody controls your thoughts. Nobody controls your emotions. No one can make you happy or sad.
And Lincoln's your son.
Yeah, Lincoln's my son, if you've never listened. And he's 8. And so, and I tell him this over and over, like, nobody controls your thoughts, your actions. No one can make you feel anything you don't want to feel. And I talked to him about this. And, even in life, and especially whether it's a client, whether it's a spouse, whatever, we all have things that get our emotions up. And I actually love it now. Like, it really makes me happy when something starts to have an effect on me, because now it's turning into this thing because I say it every day to him. I like instantaneously start thinking, Robert, no one controls your emotions. Robert, no one can influence you. And so it just allows me to be like, okay, I'm just not going to let anything this person says right now have any effect on me, no matter what. And it's I like that. I also like hard things though. I like things to be tough, and I like things to be a challenge, but it's that ultimate challenge of how much can I stay in control of my emotions, because it is very easy to just let things bother you or just get down, and but it's also when you start measuring backwards, and I think about, without putting myself on blast, but like I look at what I'm making now and what my business looks like now and the things we're accomplishing, and I compare that to where we were just even 5 years ago, and it's like I'm just watching things just constantly get better over time. But then you kind of can easily get down in the muck, like, oh, I want to feel bad for myself. It's like, no one really cares. So, maybe just not be such a little bitch about it and move on.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, it's so easy to say, right? It's so easy to be like, oh, just be positive about everything. But it genuinely, like, you have to work at being positive about everything. And even with me, I had a phone call with one of my friends the other night, and they called me, and I was working on Superhuman. It was like 8 o'clock at night, and I was like trying to get some emails like figured out. I was trying to get those follow-ups figured out, and I had just like taken my dog to the emergency room. Like, it was just a day and a half, right? And so I don't know. I was on the phone. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm honestly just so frustrated right now. Like, I just need a second. And they were like, well, what's going on? You don't know how to send an email? And I'm like, I know. I was like, I'm on the verge of tears right now. Please do not say that to me. And so it's like, but what a good problem to have at the end of the day. Like, of course, like, that's just such a frustrating moment to where it was like, and I even was like, listen, I can't explain to you what the problem is right now. It's not about the email. It's not about the fault. It's not about anything. It's just a lot. I'm trying to figure it out. And they're like, well, what's the problem? And I'm like, again, I just gotta let you go. I gotta let you go for a minute. And then, but at the end of the day, like, I can recognize, like, hey, I'm frustrated. You need to be frustrated right now. And then the next hour or two, I called him back and I was like, I'm so sorry that I was frustrated on the phone. But also, like, what a good problem to have. Like, what a good problem to have that I have so many people to email. I have so many people to follow up on. Because that's not a problem you had. You had other problems, and they sounded way worse than what I do.
Yeah, it's that's the best way to look at things, is that no matter what happens, and that's another mantra or mantra, however you say that word, where we talk about it, where I'll just walk around. Everything works out for me. Everything's going to work out. It always works out the way it's supposed to. And so that doesn't mean it's always easy. That doesn't mean it's always fun, but it does always work out. And there's that saying that either you win or you learn. And I don't like to use that as a cop-out, but I do think it's true. I think you can learn from winning. I think you can also learn from losing.
100%.
And I really try and, and again, it's funny because we don't have losses. Like, like we have little first world problems.
Yeah.
And that's another
You say
one.
that all the time.
I know. It's how are things going? That's good. I got nothing but first world problems,
Yeah.
and it's so true. And I do. And I'll wake up and even, I don't remember, I think it was yesterday morning, I woke up and it's just like we've talked about this week, this month has been great. This last week, I feel like has been a little bit of like, crap. And it's not bad. It's just like when you have, I heard a comedian one time talk about like what makes a great comedian is that if you tell a joke and it's funny, it's like, oh, that was cool. Haha. If you tell 2 good jokes, like, oh, great. But if you tell 5 jokes and 10 jokes and then you string them together, now this guy's hilarious. It's that compound. Like, okay, you hit him and you hit him, you hit him with another one. And I felt like that
like
was,
me.
oh, yeah, that's exactly it, Josie.
So funny.
Yeah. Josie's a great personality type girl is what she's saying.
I'm the personality hire.
Yeah, there you are. But yeah, when you have that, it stacks up, and I feel like, but that can feel the other way too, is that any one little issue by itself is nothing. It's a non-issue. If all you had to do is figure out this new email tool that you're using, okay, that's nothing. But then when you stack it on with, like you said, Jasper having to go to the emergency room, or you stack it on with like all the other little things that you're dealing with, and it can feel like, oh my gosh, woe is me. And I think that's kind of, I like that we have weeks like this though too. Like even though everything has been going great, it's great to have a week to remind you like you're still just a person. There's still going to be normal life, and that doesn't mean that you get to like quit or stop. And I think that when things get tough, like again, I'm talking about tough now. Like this is, I always also sometimes like I'll think back to like being in the Army. I'm like, you know what? No one's trying to kill me. I'm warm. I'm not cold. I'm not getting rained on in a training cycle in Washington. I don't have anyone yelling at me. I don't have to talk to someone with my hands behind my back. I just have a normal life. And so it's like, all right, this is pretty easy, pretty simple. But I do like when things get a little bit challenging, because what I have also seen in whatever endeavor people have, I was talking with Austin, who handles all of our SEO and all that stuff yesterday, and he's like, congrats, because I think we have done, this will be episode 12. He's like, dude, congrats, you're past episode 10, and it's something like 95% of people who try a podcast never make it past episode 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Go us.
Yeah, we're there. We're in the 5%, and he was like, yeah. And then
that's how easy it is to be in the 5%, by the way, if you just stay consistent.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And then he talks about, he was talking to me about like, yeah, then the next hump is that 100th episode. And, and it's just like how many people will quit along the way. But I can see why. I mean, think about like the things that I've had, like just not us.
Doing so much other things right now.
Yeah.
I know you got a ton of work. I got a ton of work.
Yeah. But it's also one of those things that's like, well, like what you've talked about with what do you want your future self to be, and who do you want to be when you're looking back? And I think this is something that if we don't do it, I will regret it forever, because I always wonder, like, what if? I wonder what I could have done with that, And so, and I'm having fun, and it made my day. I had the episode with Sam that we did came out, I believe, yesterday, and I had a friend of mine who I told about our podcast.
With Sam?
Yeah, well, when he came.
Cut this. I don't remember. Who's Sam?
Sam, who came out, and he was talking about like my buddy from jiu-jitsu, who does the glass blowing.
Okay, yes. I was like, Sam Dossius? Like,
No,
he's
no.
not coming on until later.
Yeah.
Cut that.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to make
That's
a
going to
note.
be really embarrassing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't remember who we had on here.
Yeah, that's all right. So I'll make
There
a note.
is something that I've been wanting to do, and it's like remember people's names, because that is so powerful all the time, and I'm so bad at it, and I actively have to remember to start working on people's names and remembering them.
Yeah, so give me 1 sec. I'm just making a note. I hope all this gets cut. Just to cut. Because she didn't remember, I guess. All right. Okay.
Okay, start off with your compliment. You got complimented the other day.
Okay, so yeah, so going back, so it made my day because I had a friend that I was telling about our podcast, and he just organically sent me a text yesterday and was like, dude, I just listened to this episode you had with Sam on. That was great. His story was awesome. Like, I really enjoyed it. And this is a guy I know I really respect. I actually want to have him on too. But just to have someone like organically, they saw that it got posted, they listened to it themselves, they reached out to let me know they liked it. I was like, all right, hey man, we haven't done anything with marketing on this yet. Like I still feel like there's a million things I'm trying to figure out on like how to share the stories with people, because I think there's a lot of people out there that have really great stories, but it's just our world is so cluttered and it's so convoluted. And sometimes just getting people to hear the message can be hard. And regardless of if it's in work or, when it's just us trying to talk about what we're doing here, that's a fun challenge though. It's like, how do we get people to know what's happening, So that's something that I'm excited to keep working on.
It's not for everyone, but that's also kind of a good thing, is that we're not for everyone either. And so it's a very niche thing where it's like we think about the audience that we're trying to capture. It's everyone realistically, but it's like there's not a lot of people out there that's like, I want to learn self-development, financial goals and stuff like that. So it is kind of niche, but there's millions and millions of people, that would love it.
Yeah, I think.
And just reaching that audience.
And I think what you're saying is right. I think a lot of people like the idea of being a better version of themselves. And I think a lot of people, they want that. But it's also very simple, And so I'm hoping that this, and when we're having these conversations, that it's just somewhat inspiring, because again, going back to that book I was talking about earlier, The Gap and the Gain, the guys who write it are part of an organization called Strategic Coach. I'm not part of this organization. I don't have any intention of joining, but I do like the books that they write. And but I think to join, you have to make like $200,000 or something. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's it's a little bit. And one of the things they'll do with new members is they'll start by asking. So again, there's a room full of people who are all making over $200,000, which again, not a crazy amount of money, but it's more than most people make, Yeah. And so, excuse me. And so they'll start with one of the questions by asking people, who in here feels like they are successful or they are a success? In a room full of people who are probably in the top 5% of earners in the United States, which is in the world like the top earning nation to live in, these are people who overwhelmingly they talk about don't feel successful. They don't raise their hands. They don't feel like they're doing it. And I don't know, maybe this sounds cocky or haughty. If someone asked me that question, like, do you feel like you're successful? Even right now, I'd be like 100%.
I do. Yeah. I feel like that too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But I'm like, you know what? Because I got asked the question like a couple weeks ago, and we've talked about it, where it's like, if you looked back in your 5 years ago, would you be proud of yourself? 10 years ago? And I'm like, you know what? I would. I actually would. I genuinely think that I've worked hard. I passed all my tests myself. Like, nobody helped me do that. And so it's like, of course, I've gotten some really amazing opportunities, but a lot of the work I've still had to do. I still have my own apartment, which not a lot of 23-year-olds can do these days. And I understand that. And I also don't want this podcast either, because I've thought about this too, is like come off as invalidating. It's totally and completely fair to have frustrating feelings. It's totally fair to be sad, because it's so easy to be like, oh, well, these guys, of course they're going to talk about positivity because of this reason and stuff like that. We talk about it because it's important, but it's also like, it's not supposed to invalidate anybody. If somebody's going through a hard time, like the other day when I was like, listen, I'm like drowning over here, I'm treading water, you were never like, well, just think positive thoughts and like get on it. You were like, yeah, that's totally fair, you are working with a lot, let's get this figured out. You were never invalidating. I think I really appreciated that, because I didn't feel like the fact that I was frustrated, the fact that I was having like kind of a rougher week, you didn't invalidate that in any way, shape, or form. But it's also like, okay, let's figure this out. How do we do this? Mm-hmm. It's completely fine to feel negative. It's completely fine to have a bad week or, a bad hour or bad whatever. But like, work through it, figure it out, and get back on top of things. You don't have to be on top all the time.
Yeah, and for me, when I look at this stuff, because I think like even yesterday, when we were kind of trying to figure everything out, we had that plan that was like, oh crap, I just need to kind of fix this, Yeah. Of course, like, was there a part of me that was frustrated that it wasn't the way I wanted it? Of course. Like, yeah, because I've got other things I need to do too. I was like, oh crud, but like not frustrated at you, because it's like being frustrated at someone who's only done something a handful of times. That's not fair. Like, I remember when I was in the Army, there was this time where we were going through how to like how to rig up different types of equipment in a plane, all right? Because when we have to fly around, like you'll have Humvees, you'll have like quads, and you have to pull them into a plane, and then you have to strap them down a very particular way because they cannot move while the plane is flying or the plane crashes. And it was something that had never been taught to me. And I had a squad leader who, like, never in my life have I had to do something like this. And then we're doing it, and then we have to do it under nods. So now you can't see anything under nods when you're up close. You can't see any like depth when it's close to you. It's either you can see far away or you can adjust the focus to see close. But even that, you still don't see very well. And I remember him just screaming at me and yelling at me because I didn't know what I was doing. And of course it's important. It's not like I'm trying to detract, saying like, I get this. I don't want to die either. Like, I don't want this thing to move around and to die because this thing's moving around on a flying plane. But you can't yell at me for something you've never taught me how to do. And you can't yell at me for something that I've only done once or twice when this is something that takes dozens, if not hundreds of reps to like really master. And so even with you the other day, like, that's why I was looking, how I looked at it is like, you know, I don't get mad. Like, I'm not going to get mad at you for, I mean, not like a baby in the industry. You're past that, but you're still learning, you know? So it's one of those things that I think a lot of people were so quick to measure people by our own ideals. And that was something we were talking about earlier this week too, because, you know, I think you said something to the tune of like, you know, I want everything. I want the world. Like, and you weren't being like cocky or haughty.
No, and I even like, I think that that's something that we say all the time. It's like, I can have everything I want to have, like respectfully as I can. Fuck you, like not you, but like,
yeah,
I can have everything that I want to have. If I want it, I want the world.
100%. And again, God bless America. You know, there's nothing wrong with that mentality. And going back, like
respectfully.
With like through hard work. And we're not saying give it to me because I'm entitled. And that's not the message at all. 0%. That's the message. The message is, this is America, and this is the land of opportunity. And if you want something and you're willing to put together a plan to make it happen, and you're going to show up early, work late, consistently get after it when everyone else is doing all the fun stuff and they're going out and they're partying and we're freaking figuring out how to do stuff, or we're waking up early, like, yeah, then why not?
Yeah.
Why not have those things? And
well, and I don't want to interrupt, but like keep your thought, because I mean, I remember knowing some people that would be like, well, you're not going to be successful if you do go and party. You're not going to be successful if you have fun on the weekends or do any of that. You need to be waking up at 5 a.m. every day and reading your books, and you can't have social media. You can't dress a certain way. And it's like, I genuinely know these people. And to be honest, I don't want that success. That sounds terrible. That genuinely sounds terrible. And it's like, that's where it comes in. And we had, what was Ty Hobbs? We had Ty Hobbs on podcast, and something that he said was he lives an and not but life. So it's like, that's what I mean too when we're talking about like, I want everything. I want the best relationships. I want to have the most fun. I want to have the best friendships. I want to have the most, you know, the best career, the best work life, the best coworkers. I want it all. I want it all. And I can have it all. You can have fun and you can still be successful, but you do have to wake up earlier in the weeks and stay up later at night. I mean, you worked 2 jobs. I worked 2 jobs. Yep.
It's something that a lot of people, going back to what we were talking about, like with the audience of this podcast, is that I'm hoping that it finds people, yes, who are already motivated. Sometimes it's just nice to listen to other people. Like, because again, maybe, you know, you hear something when you are a little bit down or you're already up, and then you're like, there's other people out there who are hustling. There's other people who want to be great. There's other people focused on that. But then I think there's also a group of people that they know that they're not doing all they can, and they just need more people in their life who they see modeling that. And it's kind of like that saying where, you know, you're like the sum of your 5 best friends. You know, if you look at your 5 best friends, what they make, that's probably about what you make, you know. And if you look at the way your 5 best friends approach life, it's probably how you're going to approach life as well. And I think that what you can do with audiobooks, with podcasts, is that you can almost have like friends who, they don't know you.
That's
they don't,
so true.
But you can learn and you can pick that up.
That's so true.
And there's things I've picked up from things like movies, or just even things that I've gone back and I've watched and I've like ingrained into who I want to be. And that's something that I really, really hope this podcast can do, is help people just see like, man, you can have it all. You can have this incredible life. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to make $1 bazillion a year and you have to be like flying in private jets. Like I've never flown a private jet. I've never done that. I jokingly tell my wife, because she'll fly around, and when she's just traveling by herself, a lot of times she'll fly first class.
Yeah. I would too if I could.
She'll like fly first class. Being completely honest, I have never flown first class once in my life.
I believe it.
Because it doesn't appeal to me. I don't care. I'm just going to sit there and watch jujitsu on my phone either way, you know? So I just laugh because she'll fly.
But it's so funny because you'll pay more for stuff probably than she would.
It depends. I don't know.
Okay, never mind.
I showed up the other day but again, this is something where I really, I do. Like, I showed up the other day, and she's getting ready to go at the end of the month to a Morgan Wallen concert with a friend of hers in Denver. Yeah. And, you know, again, this actually led to a big argument that we had that she was 100% right about, though. And it really, really helped our relationship from my perspective. My wife has always been, I think, she's always ahead of me emotionally and where we are as a family and where we should be. So she is the one. Like when the Bible talks about, like in Proverbs talks about, like he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor with God. There's times where I get really frustrated with my wife, and there's times where I just get mad because the way that she does things is different than the way that I do things. But there's also so much that I look at it in my life that it is exponentially better because of the decisions she's made for us and kind of forced us to do. From the first house we bought, thank God we bought it when she said we should. The house we're in now, the fact that we have my dog Kobe, the fact that we're getting our new dog, he shows up tomorrow night, by the way. Yeah, his name's Wally, by the way. So Wally, his name's Wally, but his official name's going to be Walter, but like Wally's what we're going to call him, you know. But like all these things, and there's just so many other things I could do and name that like that are better. And so like I heard a pastor that I follow, and I used to go to this church, but it's called Destiny Christian Center in Las Vegas. Phenomenal church. If you're ever looking for like a great church and you don't know where to go, they do stuff online, like amazing. But the pastor is a guy named Dr. Robert Poole, and his wife Sheila, and the way he loves her publicly, like I'm like, man, that is really like what it should be like, and what a relationship will look like. And he said this thing one time. He's like, yeah, my wife is the creamer to my coffee. And I just always love that, because it's like I still have coffee without her, but is coffee without creamer good? Some people like it, not me. Like I need it like jazzed up, you know. And so I think that that's kind of the way I look at Katie. But going back to that, like I showed up the other day, and there was just these brand new boots, you know, like country boots for this concert she's getting ready to go to. And when she bought the tickets to go to this concert, they were like $850 or something for concert tickets, you know, not counting the hotel, not counting the flights, not counting the eating out, the going out, the doing all the stuff she's going to do. I'm like, fuck, that's a $2,000 trip right there, you know? Yeah. And I got upset at her, and I was really, really mad when she first bought these tickets. And granted, this was like 6 or 8 months ago, you know? And I just was like, it was one of those things like, how could you do this? How could you spend this much money, you know, and just do it without even asking, and like blah, blah, blah. And we had some other things going on. Like, again, sometimes I feel like I talk and it must make my sound like we have this horrible marriage. I have a great marriage and I have a great wife. So it's not. It's just, I think sometimes the bigger things stick out and are easy to be like, oh, that was this, but hopefully a life lesson learned. And she said to me, Robert, you know, the problem is with you is you do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. And I was like, well, that's not true. She's like, yeah, it is. And so like my car, I have an Audi RS7. I love it. You know, it's not a cheap car. I bought it used. I didn't buy it new. They're like $160,000 new, but I bought one that was like a couple years old, and it was like $90,000, right? Sure. And that was the most expensive car I ever bought, but I love this car. But she's like, oh, really? You don't do what you want to do? She's like, how would it feel if I went out and without even talking to you about it, I pulled out $45,000 from our savings to put down in a car, and then I just went out and bought this car, shipped it across the country, and didn't even talk to you about it? How would you feel about that?
Did you get it souped up too?
No, it was already souped up. Okay. So yeah, I was already pretty baller, you know? But I was like, oh man, I'd be upset. And then she brought up a couple other things, and she was like, I was like, oh yeah, she's kind of right. And so it really made me, and then we had this big conversation. And I think, you know, for us, like, money to me is always important because I've been so poor before, and I'm like, I'm never going back. I refuse. But like, I don't know. There was this thing where I just wasn't trusting her. And she's like, and she brought that up too. She's like, you don't trust me with money. So she's like, do you think I want us to be broke? Do you think I want to put us in a position that we can't afford to live and have these things? Do you think I want those?
That's a really good point.
Yeah. And I was like, no. And so again, she was right in this argument. And I was like, dang it, she won that one, But even coming back to the boots, it's like, I'm glad she's able to do that and now feels comfortable enough where it's like, I don't want my wife coming to me to be like, hey, please, can I spend some money? It's like, no, this is our money. Like, yeah. Like, and so I was like, oh, cool. And then she's like, I don't like these boots. I'm going to return them and I'm going to get a different pair. They're actually a little bit less. I was like, yes, but I'm glad that she was able to do that. And I think that it's something that I hope that people, again, as they listen to this, maybe just take some lessons on how to be a little bit more effective, or maybe take some habits and some thought patterns. And it's also good for us because then we have to practice what we preach and what we're talking about,
Totally. Well, and it's like, I was thinking about it too, because I feel like there's so many self-development, self-improvement podcasts that end up just being super toxic. I don't want to say red pill, but like really extremely, like Andrew Tate, very, very red pill. And I can't stand those. But it's also hard because you have a lot of younger people being like, oh, that's how you be successful. And they look up to those people a lot because they look good and they make a lot of money and they wake up early. And it's like, well, that doesn't make someone successful. They're hanging out with, okay, maybe cut that, OnlyFans models. But they're like, they're literally like,
you can talk about
not
it.
That there's, I mean, God bless America, like you say. You can do whatever you want to do, but do they have the relationships that you want? Because, and then they talk about it and they're like, oh yeah, I can get whatever girl I want, but my wife is going to be pure and have no career and anything like that. And it's so toxic. And it's like, how do you actually become happy and how do you actually become successful? Because that's not real happiness. It's so fake. It's so unbelievably fake. And women can't look up to that because it completely puts them down in every single way.
Yeah.
And it's toxic for men to look up to, because I know people who do look up to those kinds of people, and it's very, very toxic red pill. And there's people out there that would be mad that I'm doing a podcast. They don't think that women should. And it's like,
how dare you wear pants, Josie?
And it's, again, like, I'm so frustrated because I feel like everybody's trying to be put in this but not and life. And it's like, well, I can still be a very traditional girl. I can still be a good person and still have a good career and still maybe have a drink now and then and still go to church and still have a good relationship. And you know what I'm saying? I can do it all and I want it all. And it's like, I feel like that's been like the biggest thing that I've been focusing on, because I feel like you have two sides of the coin where people are just trying to put you in this box of like what you can and can't do. And I think that's my favorite thing about our podcast is I feel like we don't really subscribe to any true ideals, and I don't feel like we put ourselves in a box of like what we believe and what we don't believe.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I want so bad to set a good example to just, I don't know how to say this the right way without it sounding like, I don't think like I'm like bigger than I am. I understand we are all just normal people. All of us have goals that are way more similar than they are different.
100%.
We might have different views of how to get there, but it's very, like, you've seen it. We talk with people from every spectrum of the political and religious, landscape. Everyone pretty much wants something similar. Their goals are very similar.
Sorry, with like you and Katie too. It's like when she told you, she's like, you think I want us to be broke? It's like both sides of the coin are sitting there and they're like, you think I want America to go down the drain? The average American, if you ask Republican and a Democrat, anything in between, not one of them is going to be like, oh, I hate America, I want it to go completely down the drain. Maybe one, maybe two. I don't know.
There's always going to be
but
some
for
people.
the most part, nobody's here sitting trying to make decisions that are going to be bad for each other, bad for the economy, bad for America in the whole.
Yeah.
We're all trying to just like we all have the same goal. It's just we have different ideas of how to get there.
I'm really grateful for my dad. My dad has really helped me see what it means to be a man, and what it means to be a man who's willing to admit when he's wrong. My dad growing up, Dad, if you ever watch these, I love you, so I'm sorry. But just calling it what it is, my dad was like a ladies' man through and through. He was single a big chunk of his life. He just, but he was good with women. I mean, I remember being a young man, and Dad, I think we're past the what is it, statute of limitations or something. So I remember being a young boy, maybe 7 to 10 years old, and my dad would take me, we'd go over to so-and-so's house on Monday when I was visiting, and then we go to a different girl's house on Tuesday. He's like,
Oh my
no, yeah.
gosh.
He's like, remember, Robert, don't mention that we went over to so-and-so's house when we're there. And I was like, oh yeah, Dad, okay. And then he was very much like at that time, like what a man is, because again, he was on the SWAT team in Vegas, and
He's a guy's guy.
he was a man's man. But it wasn't just that. Like, not only was he just like he wasn't like a womanizer in like a sleazy way. He always made people feel special. You know, he always made people feel special. And so like women loved him. And it was like when people talk about like, you know, what is it? You know, women want him and men want to be him. That was my dad. And he was just always someone I looked up to. And growing up though, I thought that's what it meant to be a man. And as I got older, you know, I really did. I followed in his footsteps. You know, when I was in the Ranger Regiment, I was very much living a lascivious and, you know, promiscuous lifestyle, and I was having a ton of fun and doing all that stuff. But then my dad and I talked about it as I got out of the Army. And by this time he had retired. He wasn't, you know, he wasn't on the SWAT team anymore because he retired, but he still had all the same skills, all that, but he just talked to me. He's like, you know, son, that's really not what it's about. You know, he got married by this time. You know, he has a great wife, my stepmom, Ida. She's awesome. And even just recently, I was talking to him about some stuff with, just my family and like, yeah, what do you think about this? And like, he said something, he's like, you know, son, I know like earlier on in life, I was very much like more of a ladies' man and all this stuff. He's like, but what I'm going to tell you, man, is you got to prioritize your wife. You got to prioritize your family. You got to make sure that you're doing it the right way and that you're really paying attention to what Katie needs here. And like, he could have, the dad when I was growing up would have been like, oh, like, I'm not even going to say what I can think of a saying he said one time that I'm like, I don't want to put that out there on you, Dad. But like, it was very much like, hey, like, love them all, you might miss a good one, you know? Like, that was kind of the idea that when I was growing up, versus now, my dad is the one who's like, we're praying at dinner. My dad is the one who's now like, hey, we're going to respect our wives. And he's been open about like, yeah, I kind of missed the boat on this. There's things I regret when I was younger. And it's good for me to see that as he's further along, because what I'm hoping with this podcast is that like, that people can see that to be like a true man, or like whoever, a young woman, whoever you want to be, it doesn't have to be what like society prescribes and says like, oh yeah, like you said, like the Andrew Tates, God bless America, Andrew Tate, do whatever you want to do. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick like that. Yeah. Like, that's just not me. Like, I want people to feel good around me. And I understand what people are trying to do. And people are saying, oh, like men are becoming too feminine and there's no like masculinity left in the world. I agree that there's a lot of things that I'm like, hey, boys should be boys. But to be a man, like, I think that means you have to be willing to work with boys to show them the way. It's not just like, let's go out there and bang a bunch of girls and, you know, make however much money we can by screwing people over. That's not what it's about. And I think that's when we have like the Let's Talk Wealth podcast. Like, I think wealth should be much bigger than that. And wealth should be like living a life you're proud of, you know? Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast, I hope. But I don't really care with the podcast as much as with my son. Like, if anything, I'm hoping that this podcast gives me a way to just kind of share what I'm trying to share with my son, but maybe a little bit further ahead, since he's only 8, you know, but like, these are the types of things I want to share with him as he gets older, is like, hey dude, being a man doesn't mean you freaking bang a bunch of randos. Like, yeah. That's not what it is. Like, now, if you want to go out and do that, God bless America. But I think being a man is much bigger than that. And it's about like doing what you say you're going to do, showing up early, leaving late. It's about, you know, discipline versus like, oh, you know, motivation. Like, okay, there's a lot of times you're not motivated, but that doesn't mean you get to not do the right thing today. Like, people are counting on you. So how about we get to work? It doesn't really matter that you're tired, you know? So,
well, and even like, you know, I've talked to you about the person that I dated, and he was so like, I'm a man, I want to lead, I want you to follow, all that kind of stuff. But he was getting hammered almost every single night. He was doing coke. He never admitted when he was wrong, and it was always in pursuit of like, well, no, because I'm a man. So it's like, it automatically gives you a pass. Anger is still an emotion, by the way. Yeah. So I don't know, but it just was like, it destroyed his credibility because he never did anything he said he was going to do. Destroyed his credibility with anyone. I was like, he's like, well, people don't like me because they're scared of me. And I'm like, no, people don't like you because you're a dick.
Yeah. Credibility. What a great word. Credibility is one of those words that people don't talk about enough, But man, you're spot on. And I can only like, from a woman's perspective, what do you like? I mean, when you're saying he was destroying his credibility, like, how does that start to affect you when you're in a relationship with someone? I know you didn't date this guy super long, and you've brought it up a couple times, but I want to like clarify, like, as soon as Josie saw the writing on the wall, she was like, "Deuces, I'm out with this dude." Like, it wasn't.
It took a minute. I'm not gonna lie.
But you try to give people the benefit of the doubt.
I do always try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I have a lot of empathy, and I think empathy is such a good thing to have. But there's gotta be a line. You gotta have values versus empathy, right? Because you gotta be able to understand. And the thing is, I still understand where he's coming from. He's like, well, I was really stressed, and I was like this and that, and I don't care. Respectfully, like, I have a lot of empathy, and I can understand where you're coming from, but I would never have done that to somebody else. I would have never treated him that way. And I'm like, I'm sorry that you're stressed. I'm stressed, but I'm not treating you that way. So what happened, and this is where it's like, okay, the man always leads, whether they know it or not. The man always leads. And so he was like, I want you to follow me. I want you to lead for me. But he would never do what he said he was going to do, right? Never. I could never count on him to answer the phone. I could never count on him to call me back. I could never count on him to do, honestly, anything he said he was going to do. And I didn't ask for a lot. All I wanted was a phone call half the time. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, could never do that. And so it got to a point to where I expected to not know. And so I was just kind of like, he was like, oh, I'll call you. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And then he started being like, well, your vibe is off, so you're acting like my mom, or you're doing this, or you're doing this. And it's like, well, that's the precedence that you set. So it's like, I don't want to be in this position either. And like, he did say something because he decided to go on a bender and didn't tell me, didn't tell anyone. All of a sudden, he was in a different state. This is so embarrassing to talk about because it's like, Josie, stand up. But, yeah. And I was like, well, I'm kind of worried about you because, again, it's that empathy aspect of like, oh, like, I care about this person. I don't want them to be in danger. And so it's like, I'm worried about you. And then he's like, you're acting like my mom. You always have a bad attitude. You always are in a bad mood. And it's like, holy fuck, I am. And I like had to take like the biggest step back. I like was like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I'm done. That was the last time, that was it. And that relationship over. But, yeah, I was like, that's where you led me. That is exactly where you led me. So if I'm in that position, you put me there because you can't lead me to trust you to make any decisions by yourself because you're a child. So you lead whether you know it or not.
Man, I think for young men listening to this, like, hopefully you guys can gain some perspective on what's expected, as you're out there in the dating pool, because it's such a weird world. And
if I can also say something too.
Please. I
think that being kind is like something that's so overrated. And I've seen people post about this. Some girls have posted about this. It's like, oh, like, I want my man to be only talk to me, and like if another girl was cold, not give him her jacket. And it's like, well, no, I think I want like whoever I date to be the kindest person ever, because if you think about it, and this is the times when it's like, okay, maybe I didn't necessarily enjoy going out with somebody. Maybe I didn't. The vibe wasn't there. The chemistry wasn't there. Maybe I wasn't attracted to them, but they were a kind person. It's like the nice guy always loses. That's not true, because I still think about those people. I'm like, that was a really nice person. That was a remarkable interaction. So it's just because someone isn't for you doesn't mean you can't be kind. And it's like every situation that I walk away from, it's like, how did I present myself? How did I present my character? And was I kind to them? And if I was, God bless America. Like, you don't like me, that's fine. That's completely fine. But I know I was a kind person. And so it's like, those are the things you always remember. And people always end up coming back if they're like, damn, that person was always nice to me.
I think too, for men out there, as we're chatting about this, like, emotions are something that you really have to get a hold on, and you have to control your thoughts, because I think for us as men, I see it. I mean, I see my algorithm, and we've talked about it before. I notice I've gotten off. I still, watch stuff on YouTube and all that, but like after Charlie Kirk got killed, my algorithm got super angry. It just was so angry. Like, I noticed that instead of, where I would get recommendations for Charlie Kirk's videos, and I, consumed hundreds of hours of his content, I just thought he was such an outstanding representation of what like a man should be, where he wasn't afraid to speak his mind, to have tough conversations. He would meet people with the level of emotion they met him at. He was kind to people who were kind, but if you wanted to like come in and try and be, argumentative, and he was like, all right, if I got to slay a dragon, we got to slay a dragon. And so I kind of walked away from a lot of social media, a lot of stuff I was watching, because I think like what's filling that void is a lot of the like let's be angry. Let's be like the toxic masculinity. I know there's people who hate even that saying, like, oh, now you're one of those. Like, dude,
We're not blue.
yeah.
We're not super red pill.
I just want people to be kind. I
Yeah,
want people to
literally.
understand that emotions as a man to have are okay. It's okay to be a sweet guy sometimes.
So it's totally
Yeah.
okay to be a sweet guy.
You-
Nobody walks away. Don't be a dick. Just
Yeah.
don't be a dick. It's just not even good. And it's like, you know what? I heard this saying, and it's like all over right now. But it's like the person in love always wins. The kindest person always wins. So if you walk away and somebody like doesn't like you, or you get your feelings hurt, or you get your hopes up because you really like this person, or you really want this situation to work out, you enjoyed yourself, and you know that you were like giving them the best version of yourself.
Well, and for me, the way that I think like regulating emotions is that I very, very comfortable with violence and the idea of violence, but I'm also very aware that there's very little in America that truly requires violence to solve. And so for me, I have a hard rule of thumb. I will not fight for anything that I'm not willing to kill someone over or to die over. I will not fight you. So if someone wants to get in my face, someone wants to be on road rage, I will not fight you unless I'm willing to kill you over this, or unless I'm willing to die for it. And so it takes that whole...
That's a really good thing.
It's something I live by. Like I can think of multiple times where it's just like, no, and I'm not going to respond this way, because guys are guys. Like, I don't know why we're this way. We are all hopped up on testosterone, especially young men. Like, it's easy to be like, let's go, and don't get me wrong. I like to fight. I like fighting,
Yeah.
but I also have seen, like, I have a guy I know in the Army. He got sucker punched. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He got caught up in a brawl. He got sucker punched, knocked out, fell, hit his head, TBI, changed his life. He was never the same. Over what? Over what? And, and you see people you see road rage stuff where people pull guns. It's like, what? For me, it's always like, dude, I want to get home and I want to see my family again tonight. Don't you want to see your family? Because like, it's, and I think when you have that, but at the end of the day, like, you see me, like, I've got my gun over there. I walk around. I will kill someone over anything that I'm willing, like, that matters. And then I'll sleep like a baby tonight. It won't bother me one bit. But that's because I also know, like, I'm only doing this if it's like something that I actually feel like I need to do. But that opens it up where it's like, okay, I'm going to put these emotions over here in the 2% category where life might need me to respond this way. But I'm going to focus on trying to be smiling and kind. And like my dad, I know I've said this before too, a saying he would have, or that he has, that I love, is like, son, you get a lot further in life with a gun and a smile than you do with just a gun. And it's so true. And so, like, I want men to understand, like, you can still be a straight up killer, like someone who's just going to conquer everything, take over the world, make all the money, do all the things, get all the respect, but you could still be a nice person. You could still hold your girl's hand and cuddle on her and be sweet to her, and just, you can do all those things. And I think that's what being a real man is, because like, being a real man and being a good husband or a good spouse or a good partner is like, you should be making your girl feel special. You should, and that's something that Katie has helped me with a ton, because like, I don't always do it. I don't always stop and take time just to hold her or just to hug her. And like, and it affects our relationship when I don't, but it's just those little times where like, I'll just stop and like take a second to just hold her. And she like leans into me and it's like, oh, this means a lot to her. But also too, like with my son, I see it a ton. Like, Lincoln is a little boy's boy. He's active. He like is so like, I'm so proud of the way he approaches life. He's very goal oriented, but he still likes dad to like cuddle with him sometimes and give him a big hug. And that's becoming less and less as he's getting older. Now, mom handles more of that, but like, he's still, at the end of the day, like when I go in, we pray together, I'm tucking him in, I tuck him in, and he gives me like big hugs and just like, I love you, dad. And like, I'm like, I love you, son. I'm very proud of you. You're doing a great job. And just like, I think that men, if they're like, you're looking for a way to be like a real man, like find another young, like another young man, whether it's your son, someone, just someone where you can be like, hey dude, I see how hard you're working. Keep it up, man. It's going to pay off. Like, just give them that little bit of like motivation to let them know like you're doing the right things. And it's the same way where when you're teaching anything, it helps you get better as well. Like, it does help me, because like I say these things to Lincoln every day. And then when I face things in my life, it forces me to be like, what did I just tell my son this morning? How am I going to ask him to do this when I'm not living it myself? And it's like, you're right. I control my thoughts. I control my daily habits. Everything works out for me. It's all good. I'm going to make this work, you know? So I don't know. I hope that men who watch this maybe see that and maybe see
Just
like,
everyone too.
yeah, you know, especially like anyone. I mean, it's easier for me as a guy to be like, I don't know. I don't know what goes on in women's minds. You guys' brains, emotions, hormones, all over the place.
I think we're so much similar than we are different.
Women and men?
Yes, I actually do. I genuinely do. I just think I think it looks different, but it's the same. I genuinely believe that it's the exact same.
All right, here, let's pause. I have to use the restroom so bad.
Okay.
Let's pause. I want to pick up right here, though, okay? So I'm not even going to stop anything. I did not forget. So we're back from me having to use a bathroom break. But Josie, you were saying before that you think that guys and girls are much more similar than they are different.
Totally.
I'm really curious why you think this, and because I'm not sure I agree. So I want to hear what you have to say.
What do you think we're different on?
Guys and girls?
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything?
Yeah, very much so. And the way that we approach life, the way that we tell stories, the way we interact with our friends, the way we respond to conflict, just the outlook that men and women have, I think is very, very different. So I'm not the one who made the claim. I want to hear what you say.
Well, it's like, I feel like I would need like an example or something, but this is just such a basic one. But it's like I was having a conversation, this was a long time ago, and this kid that I was talking to, I call guys kids. I don't know why it bothers Robert sometimes.
It doesn't bother me.
I just
think it's
funny. And he was like, yeah, girls are so, they just love their brands. They love brands. That's all they care about is the way that they look. And I'm like, okay, but guys do too. Like, let's be real. And he was like, no, we don't. He's like, I would never spend $200 on a purse. And I'm like, but you would spend $200 on, would you spend $200 extra dollars on a Sitka jacket versus a non-brand jacket that might do the exact same thing? Probably, because you like the brand, you like the name. Would you rather buy a Ford or a Chevy? And some people are die-hard Chevys or die-hard Fords. It's like, realistically, does it truly matter? And it might to some people, but it's the brand. Let's be so for real. There's just so many different things where it's like, yes, you guys do care about brands. It's just for different shit.
Yeah. Here's where I would say, like, just to play devil's advocate, like, I think girls, here's a perfect example. Men know with every guy, no matter who you're talking to, there is a line that if you cross this, we are physically fighting. We're physically fighting.
Okay.
Women don't recognize that line very often. Women will say the worst, most horrible things and just be like, oh, whatever. Like, they don't expect any type of physical ramifications. It's like girls, don't get me wrong, girls I know fight, but it's not like, it's not normal. And I think that...
Okay, but for men, fighting is the worst. That's like, it's come to a peak, right? For girls, the peak is not the physical fight. It's, I'm cutting you off.
Yeah, but that's a big difference because I can fight one of my friends. I could literally see myself.
There's a difference, but it's the same thing because it still comes to this point where we're like, the relationship's over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like guys are just, I think guys are much simpler than women. And I think that women as a whole.
Say that too. I feel like women are really simple.
No. Think of even a conversation with a woman. Think of a conversation with your friends. It's very, very, like in the details. Whereas men, it's big picture, and it's like, it's not that one is better than the other, or it's just different. It's even in the way that emotions work with men versus women. Like, I think I'm much more in tune with my emotions because of my wife, because Katie is extremely emotional. And so, I've learned and I've adjusted the way that I approach things so that it works with the way that, is best suited for her. But like, it's just.
But I feel like I've met so many emotional men where I'm like, God.
I'm sure there are, and we're making very broad general statements.
Like,
half of the world is going to cancel me, half is going to cancel you, and who cares? I don't.
It's just like, I just feel like we want the same thing. I think we want the same thing. I think the way that we get there.
I don't know if we want the same things. Men and women want the same things.
Not completely, but like the whole, again, such a basic example, like the brand thing or the cutting off friends. It's like, of course you want a good relationship with your friends. That's the end goal, right? It's like how you get there, whether somebody disrespects you or not. It's like some guys will go to physical blows, but some girls, we don't necessarily do that. Like I would never fight another girl. I would just never do it.
Yeah, I would smash someone if they said the wrong thing or pepper spray them and run away. That's what I would do.
And I would definitely use my words because I know that those are my fists. Like I can't realistically, like, let's be real, who am I gonna fight?
Nobody. Yeah, I remember one time. This was years and years ago. Katie got one of those like they're like the little like self-defense pins, but they don't like actually stab you, you know. But they're like a very hard plastic or ceramic. She's like, look, I've got this. She's like, I think I could take you with this. I was like, there's zero chance you could hurt me like at all if we were really fighting. Yeah. She's like, no, watch. I was like, just go. And she like did it, and I grabbed her wrist like she was like coming down. I grabbed her. I was like, boom, and I didn't hit her at all. I just was like, boom. I would have knocked you out right there. It's just like, I think that, you know, if someone is training, all right, like, don't get me wrong, I've met some bad girls who can smash dudes. Like, if they're training and they're like, they know jujitsu, they've got great striking, 110%, there are girls that I'm like, I would not want to fight her because she could throw those hands. But like the average, you know, 100-pound girl, like, yeah, they're not fighting anybody. It's like, oh, that's cute. Look at them go. Come on, you know? So
it's like, it's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. But we know that we can outthink.
Yeah.
We can 100% outthink. Like, try being a sneaky guy. Like, we'll catch you so fast.
No, don't try being a sneaky guy, guys.
Don't try being a sneaky guy. But I'm saying, like, women know. We have such good intuition. And it sucks because I feel like so many people are like, I actually read this book. It's called The Gift of Fear. So it's basically saying trust your gut. It's specifically for women, and it's like trust your gut. You know if somebody's not right for you. You know if something is like got a bad vibe, being dangerous, put in dangerous situations. Like, it's hard because we want to sit there and we want to be like, oh no, I'm fine. I'm just being dramatic. I'm just overacting. But I was talking about it with one of my dad's friends actually, and he has a wife, and he's like, anytime that she says she has a bad feeling, he instantly is like, yep, we're leaving right now. Like, he's like, she's never necessarily been wrong, but also we've probably avoided a lot of situations. But I don't know. Yeah, I think that women, we have really good intuition, and I think that because, we're different, but we want the same things. That's the thing. Yeah, I think we want the same things.
I don't know. I think that, if I'm being 100% honest, I think that men adopt a lot of the things that women want because it makes their lives easier. Like, there's a lot of things that we have in our household and in the way that we do things in our household that if it was just me, no way I would be doing any of them because I don't really care that much. And I know it bothers Katie because there's things that are really, really important to her that I've like, she jokes, she was like, yep, I've had to train you over this last decade, you know? And like, I know she's not serious. Like I think it's funny. Yeah, it is what it is. But it's like, because the goalpost for me is like, I just laugh, and we've talked about this. I was like, you just like over time, just add another thing that you really want me to be doing. But if you threw them all at me at once, I'd have been like, bye, I'm out, you know? But now it's like, all right, that's not too much. And like, we were out one time, we were in Mexico with some friends of ours, and my buddy Kobe was giving us a hard time. And he was, at that time, he is dialed down so much. And I really respect where he's at because, my buddy Kobe was the chauvinistic, Andrew Tate's the man type dude, right? For a while. Yeah. But he would just like say some weird things like, bro, you're just a dick, bro. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But he was still my boy, and he was loyal. And he was someone that at the end of the day, as much of a dick as he was my friend, and I could count on him. And, but one time we were in Mexico, and he had just gone on this whole thing giving me shit about how much of a bitch I was and how like Katie like had my balls in her purse and blah, blah. And I was like, dude, I'm just doing the things that it takes to be a good husband. Like, I want a happy wife, you know? Yeah. And so, and he was single at the time. And then he's like, I don't know how you let this happen and blah, blah, blah. And so then he stood up to go get something. And Katie goes, oh, hey, Kobe, while you're up, could you just do this for me real quick? And he's like, oh, yeah, sure, I got it. And she just started laughing, and he came back and brought her, like, she just asked for, like, could you get me some strawberries or something? She goes, that's how it happens, Kobe. We just ask for little things that don't seem big to you at once, but then you just get used to doing them. And he was like, and I was like, he fell into the trap, right? I was like, That is exactly what happens, though. Is like girls just kind of like, they start molding us in the direction that they think we should be going. But again, it's not a bad thing. And again, if we're going back to the idea of like talking about being like, from me as a 40-year-old man who's, I'm basically middle aged. I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think guys, sometimes we present that it's like, oh, you should be the man and don't let a woman influence you or this or that. I was like, I'm telling you, there's things that like, I still control what I'm going to do. I'm still in control of what I do or how I react to things, but it's made my life better to like pay attention to the things my wife points out that are important,
Well, and I think that, again, your guys' goal is to have a good relationship, so it's like, I don't know. I like the little details too and stuff like that, of course. But I think it also just goes back to what I was saying is like whether people know it or not, the guy still leads. And so if a girl is feeling like your mom, why are you acting like a baby? And I'm not this is so broad. This does not speak for every single relationship.
Yeah.
But it's like this. I don't want to be in a position where I'm acting like somebody's mom. That's horrible. And then what ends up happening is. This might need to be cut. But what ends up happening
Just say it,
is
Josie.
that you then don't want to have sex with your husband because you see them as a child. And why would you want to have sex with a child?
Yeah.
Like, it's a psychology term. It's
normal.
like once you start treating your husband like your son, you stop feeling attracted to them because you start seeing them as another motherly instinct to take care of. Where it's like, a lot of the times, I do feel like women are put in that position. I don't know.
I know exactly what you mean.
I'm not in a relationship. I don't fucking know.
I mean, but it goes both ways on this. And again, it comes back to being the best version of yourself, the best version in everything. And that doesn't mean you can be the best at everything. That just means that you're the best at the level you're trying to be. So what I think about with like what you're describing is that, and I'm going to give some examples, but I want to come back to like what you were just talking about as far as like, the way that it affects like the physical and the intimate part of relationships. But like for me, I only have really 2 hobbies. And if I'm being honest, it's like one hobby that I stay up on, but I'm not really pursuing. Jiu-jitsu is my main hobby. I want to be great at it as a hobbyist. I'm not trying to be a world breaker, like 80cc champion. That will never happen. I'm not going to do that. I'm not working hard enough at it. And I want to be great at shooting, but I'm not like trying to be a great competitive shooter. I just want to know that like at the end of the day, I can effectively engage targets with my AR-15s at 300 yards, first time hit every time. And with my 308 rifle, 600 yards, first time hit, I've got it every time. That to me is great. And I am good at those things. But then when it comes to my work, I treat it like I'm a professional athlete. I do. I think about it. What would I do if I were a professional athlete? How would I work there? How would I treat my mornings? How would I treat my schedule? And that to me is what I'm trying to be phenomenal at because it defines my family's life. And then going back to the intimate part of what you were talking about, I think men and women both, it's like if you look back to who you were when you first started dating, of course you're going to grow and of course you're going to change. But you shouldn't be going backwards. And if you're not growing and your spouse is, you may not have moved, but it may feel like you're losing, like you're going backwards because they're moving so far ahead of you. And I think that men and women both, like they wonder like, oh, why don't I have this, great intimate part of my relationship anymore? It's like, well, as a guy or a girl, are you letting yourself go? Are you getting out of shape? Are you self-developing? Are you being a great father or a great mother? Are you going above and beyond? Are you looking for ways to make your spouse's life better? One thing I've been trying to do, and I heard this from a book I was recently listening to, this gentleman was talking about, he goes, if my wife asks for anything, it immediately gets put to the top of the list. So it's like, that way I can keep her happy, And it's like, and I think that as a guy is something that's important to do as well, is like, hey, what can I do to find things to make my spouse's life better? And so like, yeah, I mean, when you're doing those things, like, of course, it's a lot easier for your spouse to be like, all right, I want to throw it on you now. But like, if you're consistently just a disappointment, I mean, ouch. I wouldn't want to sleep with you either, like, that would suck.
Yeah. And I mean, it's obviously probably shallow for me to speak on things, but this is something that I learned in one of my relationships that ended up getting really serious, and he was a good person. I'll stand on that till the day I die. He was a good person. He was so sweet, so nice, hard worker, had his own business, worked on himself, went to the gym, all that kind of stuff. And there was a significant age gap, obviously, and not obviously, but there was a significant age gap. I think he was like 27, I was 20, okay? And so we were just at different stages of our lives. And I think if we had met now, things probably would have worked out. That's not to say I'm happy with the way that things turned out, completely happy. I think everything happens for a reason. But it just kind of got to a point where he wanted to keep moving forward, and I was just like, I don't feel connected to you. I don't feel the relationship anymore. And we ended up breaking up. And he was probably like, well, what the fuck? Like, I was doing everything right. I think I'm a good person. I'm funny. I'm nice. And in all honesty, and I think this will help a lot of people, is he was funny. He was nice. He was perfect, quote unquote, like in a sense. But I wasn't. And so I was at a spot in my life where I was kind of depressed. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like, I remember that I was just like, man, what am I doing right now? I couldn't even go. I was having so much anxiety. I couldn't even go to the gym by myself. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go in public. Like, I didn't want to have any friends. I was genuinely just depressed.
Do you know, was there anything that like led you to feeling that way?
I mean, probably, but I think it was just, I mean, yeah.
You don't want to go into it?
Okay. I mean, I could go into it, but it's just like maybe not online, but.
No, we can talk about it off camera. It's fine.
Yeah. And so it was just kind of like, I just didn't really know what was happening in my life. And I felt like I didn't want to answer his phone calls because I would be in bed. And I still worked a full-time job, but I was working at nights at the time. And I'm sure that didn't help, is like not getting enough sleep. And so when he would call me in the daytime, like I would be taking a nap or in bed or something like that. And he'd be like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, sleeping. Mm-hmm. And he'd be like, well, why don't you go out and do something? And it just felt like this disconnect kept growing and growing and growing to a point where we just didn't really have a lot in common because he was growing and I wasn't. And I was then one that ended up breaking up with him. So just because somebody breaks up with you doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you're not perfect. Doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means that person is not in the same situation. And I think the exact same thing happened to where it's like I broke up with him because I was like, I need to figure some things out. Like and then after that I got my own apartment, got my shit together, and I feel a lot better, obviously. But now I'm at a spot to where then I dated the other guy. And I was continually moving forward, and I think it built a lot of resentment with him because I would call him and I would be at work, or I'd be at the gym, or I would be at my other work, or I'd be hiking, or I would be doing something, and he'd be drunk. He'd be, whatever, and it's like he was medicating and doing what he felt like he needed to do. But there was that disconnect there, and there's so much distance to where somebody starts to feel resentment. They just don't feel love. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. It doesn't mean that it honestly... it didn't even necessarily mean that there was anything wrong with him. There was, but not in every situation. It was just like we just weren't moving in the same direction because one person's growing and another person's not.
Yeah, and that, with relationships and how it ties into everything, I forget which guest it was. I think it was Zach when he was on just recently talking about the importance of finding the right spouse, and how that's one of the most important decisions you can make. And I think it's so true because it is something that... like we've talked about before, is like finding a way to incorporate every aspect of your life with a partner that you're trying to build your life with. And I think too, with today's day and age, like the way that it is as a younger person trying to date with it feels very transactional. I don't know, maybe it's better, maybe it's worse, because like I grew up pre-Tinder. I've never been on Tinder. I never had a Tinder account. I never had any type of dating app. I've never had to swipe right or left. I've just never had to, every girl I've ever met was the old fashioned way of like, I met them, I talked to them face to face. I mean, I had that going for me, so it worked out pretty well, But in all seriousness, like I'd have to talk. I'd have to be a real person. And I think that, in today's day and age, it's got to be frustrating because it's almost like there's two games you got to play. Like, I'm just thinking from a young man's perspective of like, I got to have a great social presence and I got to look good here, but then I still have to be interesting in person and still have to be like someone who's like worth talking to, because it's very easy to, to look great on Instagram and like, oh, look at how awesome this guy is, or look at how awesome this girl is. And like a saying, I don't know if I came up with this or if I heard it, but the saying that I would repeat a lot when I was, younger and single and all that good stuff was like, beauty is common and often boring, because there's so many, there's so many beautiful people that look great, but then when you get to know them, it's like, oh, it's not a good fit. And then with where the political climate of our world is today, now that's a whole other thing, like that just wasn't really there when I was growing up and dating people, is because like you might have had different political beliefs, when I was coming up 20 years ago and dating people and all that stuff, and no one really cared. It's like, oh, whatever. And now it's like all these different boxes you have to check, and then heaven help you if you see the world different politically, because it's like you zig or you zag. And I know there's overlap and that people have a lot of the same goals, but it's really hard when you have such differing ways of wanting to accomplish those goals, So I don't know, relationships, I am just so thankful for my wife, and that we are in a spot where I'm like, hey, it's Team Montes. We may get upset at each other. We may, fight. We may argue. But like at the end of the day, like both of us love each other. Both of us really want things to work out, and like are trying to provide a stable household. And I think that is something that has really helped us a lot, because when things get tough, it's like, all right, well, I mean, it's still Team Montes, right? So like, what are we going to do with this? But
well, and even, I mean, I tend to meet people through my Instagram. Like a lot of people have DM'd me on Instagram.
People are going to be sliding those DMs now that you said that.
No. We don't need to do that. But.
Hey.
No. But I have a rule that I don't go with anyone that can't give me a phone call, because I'm like, it's so easy to type
now
out a good text.
Now people's going to be blowing up your phone, too.
How? I don't have my number.
That's fair. That's true.
Wait, actually, it's on our social media. That's a business number. I have 2 numbers, by the way.
Yeah, that's a business number. So, like, unless you're trying to invest some money.
Unless you want a financial plan, good luck with that one, because it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm like, I don't care who you are. I'm not going out with you unless I get a phone call. And there's been so many times where, again, I give people the benefit of the doubt, and if they look like we might get along, we have the same interests, maybe the same hobbies on their social media, of course, then I'll be like, yeah, you seem nice, you seem cute, like, give me a phone call. Because I've gone out with people that maybe didn't give me a phone call, and it's like, you're so boring in person. You're so boring in person. You're not fun to talk to. You're not interesting. And I want to leave. And then it's like, I feel bad too, because now we're on a date, and I had this conversation with my sister. So I was talking to a guy from Kalispell, right? It's turning into like my dating stories. I learned a lot, though, in all honesty.
That's fine.
But I was talking to a guy from Kalispell, and he's like, let me drive down there, let me take you out, and we'll go to dinner or something like that. And I was like, I really don't want to do that. It genuinely makes me so uncomfortable. I was like, I would rather meet you in the middle, because I don't want there to be any, number one, expectations. If you're making somebody feel guilty for a dinner, I would rather just pay for my own meal and not have to deal with the expectation or the pressure emotionally at all. So a girl is not a gold digger if she just wants a meal. That's not it at all. But at the same time, it's like, you don't want to be like, no, let's just go get coffee, because then it's like, you still want them to respect you. So it's like, number one, a phone call. But then number two is, I hate really fancy dates. So I always like try and do something pretty chill. And I will like drive to meet someone if I think that they would be worth meeting. But then it's like, this guy, he was like, oh, you don't have to meet me. And I was like, no, like truly, like, it's just for me. It's not for you. Trust me. And I ended up never going out with him again, because I wasn't feeling it. But that way it feels okay to like walk away. But that's also what comes back to is like, make sure that you can provide for yourself, so that you're not like, oh, I feel like I owe this person, or I feel like I can't do this.
Yeah, that's also from the perspective, like on a guy's perspective on that. And again, for younger men or anyone who's maybe out there dating or whatever, it's like, be interesting. And I think
Be interested too.
Be interested. That's also a good point, But I heard someone talking about this, and then I started thinking about it. I was like, man, this is kind of a crazy way. But like, someone was talking once, and I don't remember, I think maybe a book. I do remember it. I think this was back when I was trying to figure out like, okay, like how as a man can like I be attractive? And again, people are like, oh, it didn't work out. I don't know. God bless America. Think what you're thinking. I don't care. I'm just thinking of the comments like, yeah, I guess you're still working on that, huh? Yeah, I guess so. But anyways, but the idea was, it's like from a man's perspective.
You're married, it's fine. You've already made it.
I think I'm doing great. So it's all working out for me. But they're saying like, let's just pretend that a girl goes out and, from the time she's, let's say it's 15 years old, let's just pretend she gets hit on 10 times a week in her normal life, which that doesn't mean like 10 guys approach her and like, oh, can I get your number? But just like, flirt, like be like flirty, right? Just they're buying their coffee. They're going out and about, like just normal guys talking to girls in their interactions. So let's just say she gets hit on, 10 times a week. And you do that from the time she's 15 to 25. Well, there's 52 weeks in a year, so that's 520 times in a year she's been hit on. And then you do that over 10 years, that's over 5,200 times she's been hit on.
I don't think I've been hit on that much.
I bet you that like I think that girls don't realize as much when guys are hitting. But okay, let's cut it in half.
Yeah.
Let's cut it to 5. All right. That's,
That's fair.
5 times. All right.
Sure.
So now instead of, so let's just call it, what would that be? Like 2,600 times. That's still a lot. 2,600 times over 10 years. And this is also assuming that we're not talking about when girls are at a bar. We're not talking about when girls go out, like, and guys are actively trying to approach them. But so somewhere between, let's just say 2,500 and 5,000 times over this 10-year period of time, girls have had some guy hit on them in one way, shape, or form. And then guys wonder, like, why when I walk up to a girl, is a girl so, like, short with me and kind of rude? It's like, bro, imagine if you had to deal with this, like, people constantly coming up and talking to you and, like, wanting something from you and, like, trying to pursue you. You'd probably get tired of it. Well, like, imagine, like, when you see too many ads, you're like, I just want to cut this out. I don't want to see this, or
You probably don't even notice it, to be honest. Like you were saying, you probably don't even, a lot of girls probably don't even notice it.
And so, like, they're indifferent to it. And so from a guy's perspective versus a girl's, all right, to a girl, they might be indifferent. They might be not notice it. They might be just hostile because they're like, dude, I just want to have this drink with my friends and not have to deal with guys, blah, blah, blah. And so for a girl, it's just one of thousands.
You can't control what other people do. You can control what you do.
Well, and I look at it too as like, but so from a girl, they may just be like, this is one of thousands of times this has happened. I'm just not in the mood right now. Whereas from a guy, guys, it's like this big social thing. Like, to approach a girl as a guy can be very intimidating. And so to a guy, we build this thing up. And so, like, just coming back to, like, the thought process of, like, if you are a man anywhere, you better find a way to stand out a little. You better be interesting somehow, some way. And you better be able to do something that's, like, just a little bit different in your own way and be like your own authentic self to kind of, like, stand out from the crowd. And I think that going back to what we were talking about with, like, the red pill type podcast or whatever people are talking, I don't even know what that means. I hear people say it online.
I actually didn't know what that meant either. I genuinely just thought it meant Republican. I was like,
what is red pilling? Like, does that just mean, like, I know what a red pill is.
Red pill is like extreme right.
I see. That's another thing.
But I'm saying, like, extreme, like Andrew Tate extreme.
I don't think, but this is the thing is, like, I don't even think a lot of the things that those guys say are extreme. I just say I think the way they say it rubs people wrong. Like, I've listened to a lot of those guys because I'm curious. I listen to, I mean, again, and people be like, how could you do this? Like, I don't agree with these people on a lot of those things they're saying, but, like, I'm of the mind that if someone is saying something, we should combat bad ideas with good ideas. We should combat bad speech with good speech. Yeah. So I have listened to all the, like, I was listening to, there's a guy named Jake Shields who has a podcast, and he had, I don't even know, I think his name's like David Duke or something. I didn't even know who this guy is, but I guess he's like, he's a white supremacist, self-proclaimed, whatever. I don't agree with anything that has to do with racism in any way, shape, or form. But you know what? I'll listen to what people have to say because this is America. And, like, I think that so often in our world today, people are quick to be like, oh, this is an extreme person. I'm like, I don't even know what this guy's beliefs are. I'm not going to, like, and then the media wants me to believe them after lying to us over and over and over because they say this is a bad person. Don't listen to him. I'm like, no, I'm going to at least let people share their views. Another guy that I've listened to, and again, I don't listen to him regularly. I'm not, like, subscribing to his stuff, but, like, Nick Fuentes is super polarizing. Someone that people are like, oh, this guy's horrible. I would never even talk to him because they brand him as a racist. And I've listened to his conversations. I don't hear someone who's a racist when he's talking. I hear maybe I haven't listened to a lot of his stuff, but I'm also like, and even if he is, whatever, man, you do you, just don't affect my family. Don't be a dick. Maybe don't put those into practices, but, like, I don't like the idea of just like, oh, this person has bad ideas, so let's not listen to them or let's not give them the chance to speak. Because if we're talking about, just going back to, like, the idea of credibility or even grace, like, okay, what happens if I say something horrible and outlandish and people are like, F Robert, he's canceled, never again, we'll never talk to him. Like, well, what happened to the idea of redemption? What happened to the idea of allowing me to say, hey, maybe I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I want to be better and I was wrong. Like, if we don't give people the opportunity to talk and to have that chance at, like, saying where maybe they missed it, then it's like, well, what is this all about? Or you make one mistake in your life and you're done? Like, to me, I don't like that idea. So
I think that, because I'm just a huge believer in free speech. If something's a bad idea, if somebody's saying some bullshit online, they're going to get a lot of, first of all, they're going to get a lot of hate for it, but also people are going to come out and they're going to be like, oh, that's harmful rhetoric. Just like they can say what they want to say, we can say what we want to say. And then people can decide if they want to listen to us or they want to listen to them. And yeah, do I think that rhetoric is harmful? I genuinely do.
When you say harmful, like what do you think is harmful rhetoric? Because I'm curious, because I have my thoughts on this. Like, what do you mean by that?
I just feel like I've obviously dated somebody that is very into Andrew Tate and like all those guys because they think he's funny, but they also see him as a man. And it's like when he's talking about being a man, it's like you can't have any emotions, you can't do this, you have to be hard on yourself, which you're saying that's not necessarily bad, but I'm saying it can be harmful because, and then he's like, fuck a bunch of bitches, like,
okay, well,
and I'm like, that's not being a man.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate on this because I think this is something that happens that, you know, do you think if Andrew Tate were sitting here today, do you think he would say, I don't think people should have emotions? Do you think that he would say that I'm unilateral and I think that all being a man is just banging a lot of broads? Like, see, what I think is that people get clipped because I've listened to enough of these people to know that there's some things they say that I do agree with. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that I support them as a whole. The same way you could take, let's take the most polarizing person, President Trump. There's a lot of things that he does. I'm like, oh my God, why did we do it this way? Okay. But then there's things he does. I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. USA, USA. Like there's different things. Two things can be true at the same time.
Two things can be true at the same time.
And it doesn't mean I have to subscribe to everything they say, but I don't believe there's harmful rhetoric so much. I'm not sold on that idea. I think that there's things that people say that are divisive, but unless someone is truly inciting violence, hey, go hurt this person. Hey, hurt these type of people for being these type of people. That to me, I'm like, no, not okay. But if someone's like, men should be badasses and men should bang a lot of broads and men should do this, I'm like, is that harmful or is that just like some guy's being a douchebag and there's been douchebags forever and now he just has a platform? Like we all knew that guy in high school. Did we say he had harmful rhetoric or was just like, oh, that's Tyler, he's a douche, like we just accepted it and we moved on. And like the thing with the internet is that there's a platform for everyone and there's billions of people on the world. So like you get a fraction of percentage of the world who want to listen to what you have to say. Cool. I mean, you're going to get your message out there then, So like, I don't know. I don't really believe in the idea of like harmful rhetoric because words don't hurt people. Again, nothing someone says about me has any effect on my life. And what they think about me is none of my business. So like, let people speak. And I think that for me, I will talk to anyone. Like, I don't really care, if someone's like, Robert shouldn't talk to this person because this person, like the thing I hate to hear is like when people are like, you shouldn't give this person a platform because their ideas might influence someone else and they have hate speech and harmful rhetoric and this and that. And it's like, how about you can see the negative in that, or you could see the positive, say, if their ideas are really that bad and they're so horrible, why wouldn't you talk to them? Why wouldn't you let them hang themselves with their own thoughts and their own ideas?
I do believe he can. And this is so broad because like I'm trying to think of like, I know there's other podcasters that believe the same way. I'm just using his name because it's a very big name.
Yeah, he's a dick sometimes. God bless. I'm sure he'd be like, yeah, I'm a dick sometimes. It's not for everyone, but like.
Yeah, and I've never heard that viewpoint. I actually like that. Mm-hmm. So it's like, again, people's opinions can change. Yeah. But I do think everyone should have the opportunity to speak. I genuinely do. I wouldn't necessarily like my son listening to that.
I mean, again.
And so it's like maybe harmful was like the wrong word
to
use.
Yeah, and I think like the way I look at it, because as soon as someone says I shouldn't listen to this person or we shouldn't let this person speak or this person has harmful rhetoric, I will go and listen to what they say because I'm curious.
I mean, listening religiously.
Yeah, I mean, but even if that, okay, so like let's just take it, and again, we're kind of going down the rabbit hole, and I'm just curious now, but like, let's say again, Andrew Tate. Let's back up. I'm going to use him just because you brought him up. Yeah. How many episodes of his podcast have you listened to full?
None.
0, right? So, and this is why I'm doing this, all right? Because again, if we circle this back to our job is to find the facts. Our job is to not be caught up in what the noise of the market is, but to see what is really happening, because the market is always going to be slanted from the way that the people on the left push it, the people on the right, this person, that person. Our job is to look through it and see like what's really happening, you know? And so I think this is something, if we're going back to people being the best version of themselves, I would like to encourage all of us to, before we think we know who someone is, at least go and listen to a couple of the things that they've talked about versus the clips. Because let's say, like, think about it, we've only done, this is I think episode 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
We have enough content right now that someone could clip us to make us look shitty really easily. And now imagine you do a show once a week, once a day for however long, like it'd be very easy to make anyone look like a douchebag, you know, or to make them look, you know, hateful or this or that. But it's like, that's not who that person is. And again, I'm not a big Andrew Tate like
this is
fan.
not advocating for him,
I'm not.
I see what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't watch his show. I have watched his shows. I've watched his podcast. I've listened to some of his interviews, and I'm like, yeah, guy's a douchebag. But I like at least that he's like, maybe I don't agree with what he's saying about how men should be. What Andrew Tate reminds me of is the way my dad was when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. He was like a man's man. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to fuck people up. I'm going to bang bitches.
I think it bothers me because I feel like men peacock for other men instead of just treating like their girlfriends right. And this is in the instance that they have a girlfriend. Does that make sense? And so they purposely put girls down to show off for other men. Yep. And I totally understand girls that do that too. And it's not saying that it's okay. I just don't like it.
I don't either. And that's why I'm glad we're talking about this, because what I hope people watch this and say, you know what? There's two things we just saw happen. One, Josie is open enough to be like, hey, you know what? You're right. I didn't think about that. That's a good point. Maybe I'll rethink my thought on this. And it's like, it's okay to be like, yeah, maybe I'm not even saying you're wrong, but it's like, yeah, thanks for expanding my viewpoint. I'm gonna rethink about this.
Yeah. And then I don't have to go and watch him still.
No,
I can
you don't
still
have to.
Not like him, but I understand. I totally understand where you're coming from.
And the other thing I hope is that I hope someone sees this who maybe they stumble across our video and they have been watching the Andrew Tates of the world, or they have been watching the Nick Fuenteses of the world, and you know, or whoever. And again, both those guys, there's things they've said that I agree with. There's things they say that I'm like, bro, do not agree. But I hope that they just get another perspective and say, you know what? It's okay to like let people say, and maybe I could be more of like the live and let live, like God bless America, you know? If we ever get merch, that's the shirt I want, you know? The God bless America shirt, you know?
Yeah, you say that all the time. I'm starting to say it, I'm like, ah.
I picked it up from a squad leader that I had named Jason Belford. And I've talked about him before. I really respected him. And he was my squad leader when I was in RASP, which is the selection process for the Ranger Regiment. And just this country boy, like I forget, man, where is he? He's from like Arkansas, but like self-prescribed, like just white trash. Like this is him talking about himself. He's done a lot of podcasts and talks, and but he would just be like, you know what, Rob? He's those last names, of course, but you know what, Rob? You know what people want to be? A badass like me. America, let's go. And he would just be like, yeah, God bless America, let's go. And he's just like, always just like everything he did. And he's the guy that I've talked about where we would literally be running. So there's the Ranger Regiment and there's other special operations units, obviously, but then there's like the leg army, like the big army. And so when we'd be doing our PT in the morning, he would literally, you know, and we wear different uniforms. So like even in RASP, you have a different uniform than people in the big army. It's like you're set apart, you know, even just as in the selection process. And so like he would take us and we would run laps while we were running. So these leg units are running in formation down the street and we would run laps around their unit. And he'd be like, listen to them, boys. They're singing songs about wishing they could be Rangers like me and you. Let's go, America. Oh, I love this job. Let's go, boys. And they're singing about us. And he would just be like talking shit right in front of their whole, like their company commander might be, their platoon sergeants. Everyone would be right there. And you're like, I don't know if we can do this. He's like, we can do it. Let's go. You know, I was like, oh man. And so I just always liked that. But yeah, that's what I hope that people see. Like, dude, just don't be so caught up in other people's opinions. And I'm not saying you were, but I think this is a big issue.
I mean, everybody is. I'm sure everybody is. I'm sure there's so many areas of people's lives where they don't realize. Because I like to think that I don't judge people, you know what I'm saying? But I think there's so many areas of people's lives where they could be like, oh, that could be a little bit hypocritical.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's like, oh, I was wrong.
Yeah, and that's okay.
That's
and I think this is something going back to like being a good man, a good woman. It's okay to be wrong. Like even when we were first starting about like the, just getting things as you're learning wrong, like it's okay to be like, I was wrong. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I'd like to correct this. Or, hey, I'm new to this. I don't quite have all the answers. But like, if we're going back to what we were just talking about a few minutes ago with like, how important is grace to you as a person? Yeah. Because if you're going to be a person who says that
you want it,
I want grace.
I want it.
I make mistakes all the time. Mm-hmm. And so if we don't have any room for someone to be like, I made a mistake, I was wrong. Or you know what? Even if they never feel like that, like I guarantee you, if we ever had someone, again, we keep using Andrew Tate as an example, but if Andrew Tate were here sitting with us and talking and we were talking to him face to face, I bet you we would probably not hate him if he was just talking to us like a normal person. There'd probably be some things he said that we disagree with, but like, it's like, oh, if we got to know the guy, I bet you we'd be like, yeah, he kind of has similar goals that we have too,
Two is I have biases because I know people that listen to him, and I think that makes me not like him.
Yeah.
Because I've had people tell me, it's like, well, you're never going to find the relationship that you're looking for because you're in corporate America or you're pursuing a career. And so it's like, fuck you, I'm going to have it all. Yeah. I'm going to have the great relationship. Yeah. I'm going to have the great career. I'm going to be a great mom. Like, all that kind of stuff. And so that, to me, is where I feel like I get a bad connotation because I'm like, you listen to that bullshit. Yeah. And it is bullshit.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I mean, that, like, I know what you're saying because, again, there's the...
Or you're not going to be respected because of the way you dress. Yeah. I've genuinely been told that so many times. Or you do your makeup slutty. Some, like, stuff like that. And it's like, I know you listen to Andrew Tate. I know you listen to all that kind of stuff. You can listen to who you want to listen to. Mm-hmm. But that's the mindset that you now have.
And it's also none of their business. It's nobody's business what you do with your life. And it's nobody's business to tell you.
It's obviously hurtful to me. And so I think that my feelings on that kind of stuff are heightened.
Yeah, and I can understand that. And this is why, for me, like, don't get me wrong. People say things to me that, like, I guess they could be hurtful. And this is something that I hope, like, in you being around it. And I already see, like, just since we've been working together, like, the growth you're having as a person. But this is why, again, I say it, no one has any control over me. No one has any power over me. I refuse to let someone influence me in a way that I don't like. I control me. And so, like, the reason I remind myself of that all the time, and that's not saying I never get impacted, but I'm very quick to correct it because everyone has their opinions. I was talking with a gentleman who I think will end up being a client of ours, and he was telling me that his mother-in-law, like, he was trying, like, this gentleman, he's got a decent amount of cash set aside. It's close to $100,000 sitting in his bank account, and it's not doing anything for them. Yeah. And we had a great conversation. I know this guy. I trust him. We've known each other for a while now. And he was talking to his wife about meeting with us, and his wife, and while he was doing it, his mother-in-law was there. And his mother was like, oh, you don't want to invest. You're going to lose all your money. You don't want to do this. You really need to be careful. And so, like, it was influenced to the point where his wife didn't want to meet with us. And I was talking to him. I was like, hey, man, is your mother-in-law independently wealthy? And she's like, no. He's like, does she just have, like, FU money, like, all this stuff? Like, because he's a friend of mine. I was like, is that what she has? He's like, no. I was like, here's some advice, man. Don't take advice from people who are broker than you. Do you want to be where she's at when you're her age? He's like, no. I was like, yeah, so don't listen to her. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Now she's doing this out of fear. She might have had a bad experience. Something has happened that has caused her to feel that way, but that doesn't mean it's right. That means that she's limiting her life based on fear, And so, and that's kind of what I think that as we're going through all this stuff is that, like, people can have their opinions, good or bad, but you should be able, back to the book you were talking about, like, you have to trust your gut. And the way that you get good at that is, like, you just bet on yourself. And you've said a couple of things too. I bet on myself
every fucking time.
Every time I will bet on Robert. Every time, because I control my habits.
I had a guy tell me, I talk about guys way too much. But I was having a conversation with someone, and they were like, oh, you think you're going to own property? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, why do you think that? And I said, because I bet on myself every fucking time. Absolutely.
And, like, and again, going back to credibility, like, you also have credibility. Like, we have talked about how when you first started working with me, you're not the first person who's come up and been like, Robert, I'd really like to get into this industry. And I've had quite a few people. And I was like, yeah, before you can do anything, you need to go pass this test, because you can't do anything in this industry. No one's going to talk to you before you pass this first test. And you're like, okay. And then you just did it. And you're like, I passed the test. And I was like, oh, cool. And I was like, well, you should be reading these books too. You're like, I read those books. And so, like, you always did everything you were saying you were going to do, to the point where I wasn't looking to hire anybody, but, like, you had credibility. And it was something that I recognized as, like, there's so few people today that actually do what they say they're going to do and show up and are willing to put in extra work. I was talking with Katie about you just the other day. I was like, I'm really proud of Josie because like, you know, with everything you're doing here and then still transitioning from your other job and like all that good stuff. But like, I was like, she's working like crazy. I was like, it reminds me a lot like when you were, because when my wife went into real estate, she was working 2 other jobs. She worked, she had just gone through a divorce, you know, like we met, I think I've told this story. We met the day that her ex agreed to sign the papers for their divorce. And then like, she'd been trying to get this done for a while. They were living separate lives and like, you know, so it wasn't just like on the day, you know, like things were going. But, you know, she basically got divorced. She didn't ask for him for anything. Like she didn't want anything from him other than like just a little bit of the assets they built together. But she was like kind of broke and her job that she was at, she hated. She had a great paying job. This was back in like 2014-ish. You know, she was making like 70, 80 grand, you know, at her job and, you know, got bonuses, had time off, had a good job, but she was miserable. And so she was like, I wanted to go into real estate. And so she quit that job. She started working with a realtor who's a good friend of ours, but then she had to get a normal day job that she'd work early during the day, and then she would go work real estate in the afternoon, and then she worked Friday, Saturday at a bar just to make extra money, you know. And it's like no one knew that about her. No one knew that she was working like crazy. No one knew that she had just gotten divorced. No one knew that she was balancing everything. No one knew like all these different things she was doing to like make it work. And a lot of people thought she was crazy for like leaving this good type of job that she had, but she was like, I hate it, you know? And so I think that that's something that when you're betting on yourself, when you do what you say you're going to do, and going back to like the very first thing we're talking about is like motivation is fleeting. There's a lot of times I'm not motivated, but discipline is always in my control. And discipline doesn't mean you have to do everything right 100% of the time. I think there's levels to everything. And that level 1 is, hey, I don't care. I'm going to let my emotions drive me. And so you have no discipline. Maybe you do it, maybe you don't. This is how people, I think, get out of shape, are not happy with their marriages. This is how it leads that way. Then there's, you know, like, and I guess there's another level. There's probably more than 3 levels. I guess 4 levels. There's the people who are just like, oh, I'm going to do my job and I'm going to do the minimum, but it's enough to get by. The level I'm trying to play at is I want to be phenomenal, but I'm also very realistic that like, I'm not trying to be the Michael Jordan of the financial planning world, the Kobe Bryant of the financial planning world. I'm not trying to be like, if you like jujitsu, I'm not trying to be the Gordon Ryan, who's like the greatest of all time jujitsu practitioner. There's, you know, because you listen to these guys, and that's a different level. Like there's a very different level from I play professional basketball to I'm Michael Jordan. Like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant was on the complete different level where it's like, this is everything to me. Nothing else in my life matters. I will never take a day off. I'm not going on vacation. I will do everything to live, breathe, sleep, to be the greatest of all time. And that is, it's okay to like, you don't have to be on that level to be great. Like for me, my goal on everything I do that I do passionately, I want to be in the top 10% of the world.
Well, and like, okay, I wrote this down too, because this was a while ago. So just kind of circling back to that is, it's so easy to be in the top 10%.
Easy.
So easy to be. Like we were just talking about, we're already in the top 5% podcasters. Yeah. There's like 10 people probably listening to this.
We don't even know what we're doing.
Sorry.
We're starting to get some views. Our reels are starting to do all right.
I don't watch any of them. I can't watch them back.
You got to start watching them. Jeez. I watch them just so I can get better, so I can learn. But
no, I get that. I'm not ready. Yeah. Anyways, I've got other shit to do. Anyways.
You should watch this one because you're talking a lot more on this one than you do on a lot of the other ones. Yeah, that's why I'm glad we're doing these ones too, because like I think you're still kind of coming into like, I want to, never mind. But like I want people to get to know you because you've had a lot of things that you've said that have influenced the way that we're taking, you know, Nexus, and it's been really, really helpful. And so like, you know, I'm glad. I'm glad to see you. You're growing up. You're coming out of your shell a little, you know. Yeah. But yeah. So I think that people, if they just
just do one. Sorry, I was just gonna finish that thought. If you do 1% better every single day. Or not even every single day, but if you just get yourself 1% better, you're going to be in the top 5%.
Well, and that's the thing is like the consistent slight edge daily habits, because you do get to a point. This is another thing. You get to the point where making a 1% gain is tough. It's incrementally hard. It takes a long, long time, but there are some areas like, okay, that's going to be really hard. But again, then it's like starting to do that looking backwards. Where was I versus where I am now? And just understanding too that you won't always see the results. Like sometimes it's years and years.
Well, it can be in different areas too. It can be like, oh, I open my wife's store every single day. That you're now in the 1% of men. Congratulations. You know what I'm saying? So it's like so easy. I don't know if that's 1%, but it's like, how many people do that?
Yeah, no, I understand. But I hope that as we wrap up, I do have to get going here because I do have jiu-jitsu here in a little bit. What's that?
D1 yappers here.
D1, I know, right? I'm my jiu-jitsu coach. He was like, I can't make it today, and I was like, I can open up, I can teach today, so I've got to be there in about 20 minutes. But I hope that when people are listening to this, that they understand like being great should be what you think is being great. You shouldn't model your greatness off of someone else or the expectations of what someone else says. And like, I think a lot of times that's the problem. Like, again, I'm really glad we brought up Andrew Tate because I don't know Andrew Tate. I haven't watched nearly enough of his content to really understand who he is as a person. I've seen the clips where he looks like a dick, but I've also seen clips where he's like just talking about men being men. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. But I would say that like, whoever you are, don't be a clone of Andrew Tate. Don't be a clone of Robert Montes. Don't be a clone of Josie Allred. Don't be a clone of anybody. Be you. Be your authentic self. And that's kind of like when we talk about these conversations being, you know, authentic conversations with interesting people. That means that when you really think about how crazy it is that you exist, it's insane. Like just the fact that you were, the stars aligned and you were, you know, from your mom and your dad, all right, the one sperm met that one egg to make you this unique individual in this cosmic craziness that is the universe. It is insane to think that we are even here. It's such a blessing. It's a miracle. And like, I think that we miss out on how special we all are and how lucky we all are just to have this opportunity to do something with our lives. So don't waste it on being average and ordinary, and don't waste it on trying to be what someone else says you should be. Like, be you, do it to the level that you feel so proud of, and like understand that you're going to die sooner than later. And it's that Confucius saying, every man lives 2 lives. And the second one begins the moment he realizes he only has one to live. And that's something I talked to Lincoln about even now. I was like, Lincoln, you only have this life. You're young right now, but you could die tomorrow.
And I heard this quote too the other day. It was like, if you do it right, you only need one.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I think somebody was asked doing an interview and they were like, oh, do you think that, do you believe in reincarnation? Do you believe in the next life? And she's like, yeah, I do. But if you do this life right, you only need one.
Yeah. And at the end of the day too, it's like, I believe that there's life after death. I'm a Christian. I think that that's what happens. And I think there's a lot of great stuff that supports that when you really start digging into it. But at the end of the day, it's like, that doesn't change anything. You're still going to live. You're still going to die. You're going to have this one life. And at some point of time, unless you die like that, which, accidents happen. But if you're lucky, you're going to be sitting on your deathbed one day and you're going to be looking back at your life. And there's going to be a series of choices that you consider that you made. And you're going to think about when you zigged and when you zagged. And I just want to be on that day looking back saying, I always went for it. I always tried. And even if I mess it up, it's okay. I don't regret that I never tried, because that to me is the biggest fear. Is like, what's the big fear? Like, I think I have 2 really big fears. One is that my kids want nothing to do with me. And the other one is that I'm looking back at my life and it's full of regret, So 100%. Want to finish up there?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think it's a good spot to leave off. If we keep saying more, we are going to get canceled.
I don't care. Cancel me, guys. That's the thing with being canceled nowadays, is like you get canceled by half the people and half the other people just love you even more. So again, I don't really care. But guys, thank you so much. Check us out if you want to connect. You can go to the letstalkwealthpodcast.com. It's just letstalkwealthpodcast.com. There's ways to reach out to us. If you want to talk about financial planning or any of that good stuff, you can send us an email through there. That will take you to our financial planning company, which is Nexus Wealth Management. You can find us there, nexuswealthmanagement.org. You can reach us via email. I'm Robert at nexuswealthmanagement.org. Go ahead, Josie.
Mine's Josie at nexuswealthmanagement.org.
And but yeah, thank you very much. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned. We're going to be dropping episodes every week. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.